The video games industry is one of the most innovative and fastest growing industries in the world. The men and women of this industry work tirelessly to provide entertainment for the masses, and some of these provide the music. Music that we love. Music that we listen to when we're enjoying ourselves playing those video games. Video games. Music that we love. Music that we listen to when we're enjoying ourselves listening to video games. Video games. Do we even know who these people are? No. Would video games be the same without them? No. What you're about to hear are not...
Hello. It's going good. Just been working and hyping up for my Average Giants interview. Of course. Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, it's been a while since I did the elevator pitch. So, See No Evil is a puzzle game based on sound manipulation, where you sort of use sound to work your way through the levels and keep yourself from your blind enemies.
Okay. Cool. All right. With that, I'm gonna get into the game, and I'd love to watch the intro first. So we're gonna do that.
Do I have this game?
I think you might.
I think I have this game.
I'm pretty sure you do, actually.
I don't think I've ever played it, though. I think you gave it to me, and I was like, I'll play it, and then I never got around to it.
Nice.
I feel so horrible now.
You're so prepared.
I know what we're doing today.
Consider this. First and foremost, ignorance is bliss. Wisdom is just getting a grip on a persistent dissatisfaction. Grasping that action toward...
Oh, that's my
Way
bad.
to pause it.
My bad.
Understanding is hopeless. So keep your eyes closed. It's easier that way. I promise.
See no evil. I love this game.
Hear no evil? Speak no evil? Better be monkeys in this game.
You're gonna be disappointed, my friend.
All right, go ahead. Your voice acting debut is upon us.
Dreams. The endless frontier of human potential.
Except for our Divinity Original Sin series.
Yeah.
Do you see what they're doing here? I love this. It's technically the tutorial. It's telling you what to do.
I don't want to press space.
You're not a seer.
So, tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind See No Evil. I know we kind of had this chat before, but I really like this story.
Yeah, so See No Evil is it's a game based on a poem actually that I wrote quite a few years back, and it's sort of about the concept of looking for truth despite how I don't know, maybe hard that can be, and being willing to sort of step out and search for truth even when the people that you love or the people around you aren't willing to do the same thing. And so it's sort of a figurative game. So in the game you play the seer who's chosen to open his eyes, and everyone else in the game is just choosing to keep their eyes shut. And the world is like kind of dark and kind of a scary place, and so they all prefer to just not look at it, and then there's no evil to be seen. And so as the seer, you're sort of willing to take the dark world so that you can look for the truth. And people who aren't willing to open their eyes are a little bit hostile to that.
Which is really kind of cool. Tell us a little bit about the soundtrack, because you guys have an amazing soundtrack on this game.
Oh man!
Or
so
you guys,
Luke
it's
Thomas. Luke Thomas is the sound guy for See No Evil, and he's actually doing sound for like all of our other games. Both the games we're working on right now, because he's just amazing. I met him when I was, God, I had been like 14 or something like that. I was making some really crappy game, and he saw it and he's like, "Hey, do you mind if I just make some music for you?" I'm like, "Sure." And he made some, and it was pretty good. But I remember at the time thinking, like, as 14-year-old Gabe, I was like, "This guy's gonna be good someday. I should like keep in touch." And so I did, and it paid off because now I got an in with this fantastic sound designer who, yeah, he kills it. But yeah, we wanted to do something a little bit different than, I guess, not most, but a lot of games of this nature. We wanted to sort of, my original thing when we were talking about it is, I'm like, I want some like dark classical music that can loop really, really well. And he nailed it.
He did. It's I love it too. So I'm glad you kept in touch with him for the games that you guys at Noetic are working on now.
Yeah.
One thing that kind of came up after we had you on the show last time is, could you give me the story of Noetic, or like how you guys came to be where you are now? Because it's cool. I love that story.
Oh man. So gosh. So I was in Florida working at Trendy Entertainment on Dungeon Defenders 2, which is out now. Plug for them. Some really awesome guys working there. Made a really good game. So proud of that.
Which I still need to go play.
Yeah, you do. Good stuff. Anyways, so I was working there, and I met Ryan at some like jazz dance thing, and we just started talking and hanging out some. And he had done some programming, and I was like, "Hey, man, you should get better at programming, and we should make video games." And it was sort of just like a joke, and then it turned into like a really real thing. And he ended up like moving into my apartment, working like 11 hours a day at improving his programming work.
That's crazy.
And we're like, in a year we're gonna start something. And I was working on See No Evil with John, who's the programmer for this. But we're like, in a year we're gonna start something, and then we were just sort of talking about crazy options, like ways that we can make this happen, no matter how ridiculous they are, just for fun going over them. And one of them was to call this guy named Tony Leopard, who lives in Colorado. He's relatively successful. He's a successful venture capitalist. And to call him up, and I remember him mentioning that he had a summer home, and just see if like he would let us work there. Like make it our office. So I called him and I was like, "Hey Tony," and I'm like, "I know you don't know much about video games, but let me just talk to you about what we want to do." And we told him about how we think games have potential to really turn into something, turn into an art form that's respected as such, and have a positive influence on our generation. And he was all about it. Like, it was crazy. We didn't expect it at all. We were expecting him to just be like, "Well, it's pretty weird, okay, bye." But he was all about it. He's like, "That's cool, how can I get involved?" And I'm like, "Actually, we could use somewhere to like set up an office, if you want to like get in on this with us." So now Ryan and I are living at 13,000 feet in the Rocky Mountains, making a game. And Tony, it turned out, like, we were just sort of expecting him to like give us an office and we'll give you a cut of all of our work. But he's like super involved with the company. He basically handles our business end, which is fantastic. And we just hired our first employee, and he's here now. So yeah, a lot of really
big congratulations on that too.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you. It's exciting. It's weird. The more office-like this place looks, the more kind of weird it gets.
Yeah. And I will be back in just a moment. I need to grab my laptop. So if you want to pop, we'll switch. Switch who's? And PG, why don't you give us your first impressions of the game?
My first impressions of this game are it's really cool. Oh, this chair's way smaller.
I'm really liking it because it's a puzzle game where you have to watch where you walk and you have to move people certain ways without screwing yourself over.
Mm-hmm.
And if you call them too close, you can't get away.
Right. When we were originally starting off on the game, we were calling it a stealth game, and then we realized that like the point of the game is to like let them hear you, but then get away in time. So that was one of those cool things that the game sort of came up with itself as we were making it, and it wasn't.
Yeah, it just kind of evolved into itself. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Which is always cool when a game just naturally turns into something kind of neat instead of having to like force it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm back. Left my laptop in the kitchen. That was silly.
Oh. Kitchen lappy.
So this was your first game that you did solo after Trendy, and it's already released on Steam. So if people are interested, you can find it on Steam. What's the price point on it?
It's $6.99.
That's nuts.
So super cheap. And I think it's gonna be on sale tomorrow for like 10% off or something like that. I think. You'll have to see.
Which is cool. Which is really
That's
cool.
pretty cool.
Yeah. So.
So stay tuned. If it is, then I'll definitely put that in the update when I upload the video too. So makes that easier.
Very cool.
Oh yes, I remember this one. This is when you have to start using your actual login. I really like the abstract use of audio in this. Like I know I probably the same thing I said the last time you were on, but you don't see enough of that. Like when, well, just the mechanic itself. Like I love how you have to think about the noise that you're making when you're going around the mobs, that kind of stuff. It's kind of cool. Makes it really unique.
Yeah. It's also really weird because it's an isometric game, and that actually posed some challenges that I was worried about, but no one noticed, which is it's a good thing. But like the sound wave that is coming out is actually warped, right? Because it's an isometric game, so it's not 3D. This is all 2D. So the sound waves are just it's a warp. It's an oval. And that seems like it should be weird. It seems like it should be weird that like they're more likely to hear you if you're walking toward like in front of them or behind them than they are if you're walking like next to them. But like it feels natural, which is just odd. Again, something that it's not like some genius design. It's just like, oh, that's neat that worked.
It just happened that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely a huge fan of when designing a game, keeping a really malleable design document, not forcing yourself to do the things that seemed really cool in your head, because they don't always turn out to be as fun as they seem. It's a lot better when you just sort of, you have the idea, you have a reason to be passionate about it, and then from there you can just sort of go with it, you know, you can just sort of see what happens and not be restricted to, I don't know, some paper. Just like one of the blessings of being indie, right? Like it's really hard to do that when you're at a studio because there's millions of dollars invested and, you know, 80 people working on the team. So it's hard to kind of have that freedom to be like, you know, I realize that we thought this is what the game was about, but maybe it's not. Like maybe it's more fun if the game's about something else. Like an example here, like maybe it's more fun if the game isn't about being stealthy and more about just sort of manipulating the world with the sound.
And that can be extremely freeing, I'm sure.
For sure, yeah, definitely. It's a good feeling. Man, we contemplated putting this level in because it's so hard. First area.
I'll figure it out.
It's funny because people either like, everyone that's played See No Evil is either like, this is crazy hard. Like, especially I've gotten emails, like tons of emails of people being like, I think the last level's broken. Like, it's not broken. It's just real time. Everyone. But anyways, people are either like, this game's crazy hard, it's super difficult, which a lot of people like, or generally it's programmers who just breeze through it. Though, like, it only took me like a few hours. I'm like, what? I can't even beat it that fast. So it's weird. Oh man, he's getting close.
I love watching someone else play this now, because last time when we had you on right here on this level, I knew I was sweating bullets. Going, no, I can figure this out. This isn't even that far in.
Yeah, you're pretty far into the first 4 chapters. So, and the first chapter is more like a tutorial thing. So yeah.
Oh, nice.
There we go.
So now that it's been successfully launched, what do you think was the hardest or the most what am I trying to say? The best lesson that you learned while making See No Evil?
Honestly, the entire launch was the best lesson because, I mean, a lot of devs like to start games. You see that a lot. You see games that don't get finished, right? Because everyone likes to start games. It's really fun to get excited about something and, think about all the things it could be. And then you start working on it and you're excited. But, like, after, like, a month of working, you're like, oh, this is really hard work. This requires, like, just a lot of intensive work. And that turns a lot of people off. And having been in games as long as I have, that was something that I had done before and expected with this. But the craziest thing was actually getting to the point where we were ready to launch and realizing how little I knew about that. It's like I had worked on multiple games. I'd done art for a lot of games. I'd worked on games that had been shipped. Right, I have like 4 or 5 shipped titles, I think. And so like I'd seen them get to that point, but I'd never been the one calling the shots on like actually getting it out there, and that was crazy. Like marketing is crazy, and just figuring out a price point. Like the game was originally $15, right? And it sold pretty well at 15, and we moved it down to like $6.99, and the sales went up like 150%.
Oh wow!
And we're like, wow, we should have done this from the start. That would have been me. Because we're making like way more money than we even were at $15, which is like, you're like, it's 15, and like a lot of games are 15, and if this is 15, people will buy it, right? But yeah, so that was crazy, and then just trying to get visibility and learning, like understanding how important timing is, just something that I never thought of either.
Definitely.
Like making sure you're not trying to make an announcement around the time of like E3,
a big launch, yeah,
like we did. Yeah, we like started talking about the game and sent it out to all the press people like right before E3, and they were like, God, that was just a bad idea. Yeah. Anyway, so it's just like a lot of rookie mistakes that were made, but now it's still nerve-wracking, but I feel like I've been through all of the hoops of, not probably not all the hoops, but I've been through the process of making a game start to finish and releasing it. Not just making some art for a game or not just being a part of a game that was released, but like I was in charge and released the game. And that there's just so much information there that I now have and kind of can prepare for from day one with all of our other games, which is cool, because there really is, there's things that in just working on like design documents and working on the foundational stuff that I'm doing differently now that I know.
Would you oh, not a worry,
that's all right.
Considering there are quite a few indie developers that are like watching the show or watch us on YouTube, are there any tips you could give about like avoiding certain pitfalls, or any tips about I know the price point is always such a big question from that I get from indie developers of what do I set my game at, what do I, because it's not even fair. You can't say I think my game is worth this much anymore, because so many people are saying, yeah, it might be worth that much, but I would sell it for $3. So is there any kind of advice you can give that way?
Yeah, I mean, I can first say that it's not just indies. The guys in AAA studios are asking the same questions and worrying about the same things. And I think the biggest advice that I could give to any indie is, I mean, if you really want to do this, if you want to make games, finish a game, like figure out a game that is not that complex, like easy enough that it can be done, and then finish a game. And it's such a hard thing to do. I know way too many really talented developers who just have tons of half-finished projects that are all really neat, but you know, they lost inspiration or whatever. And like there was a lot of long nights with Sino Evil. I was working full time while working on it, so it was really hard work. But
I could imagine.
Yeah, but it paid off. Like being able to finish a game gave me what I needed to make this my living, to just run a studio. Like it was totally worth it. So yeah, I think the biggest thing is just finish a project. Like even if it's super small, even if it's, you know, just a Flappy Bird clone, finish a game and make slightly bigger game. And with price point stuff, I wish you luck, because it's so hard to know. It's just crazy hard to figure out what exactly you need to do there. I would say it's generally better to err towards cheaper. But when I say that, I also think about, I did freelance work. I still do freelance work here and there. But I do a lot of freelance 3D, and the worst thing ever is when you're like, the client's like, how much do you charge? And you're like, well, this much an hour. And they're like, wow, that's amazing. And you're like, damn. No.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I want you to be like, all right, I can handle that.
Really? I would have paid you double.
Right, exactly. And so, like, as, you know, throughout the years of me doing freelance, I learned sort of what my price point was. But that took years. And so with games, it's a similar thing. It'd be a huge bummer if, you know, if you release a game and people are like, how is this so cheap? But a bigger bummer, I can speak from experience, a bigger bummer is learning that if you would have just made it a little bit cheaper, you would have had, you know, 150 times or 150% higher sales from day one. So, you know, I think it's better to err towards cheaper, or even free if it's your first game, and then just moving towards. Oh yeah, man, you.
I was listening to the sound of where it was, and I didn't know which one was up and down. I forgot.
Yeah. I mean, being in indie it's tough. You have to really want it for sure. So if it's not just a hobby, you should definitely finish a game.
Any questions?
Nope. No,
Just
I'm
kinda
really enjoying
the
this game.
playthrough. I really love the style in this game too. I like how you really keep it almost minimalist. Like, you don't need backgrounds. I really think that's kind of cool. You keep your players focused on what they need to be focused on.
Totally, yeah. And that was actually something we experimented with doing backgrounds, and it felt cluttered. Yeah, and I mean, obviously, like, when looking at making an isometric game, we looked at Bastion.
Yeah.
And we're like, this game is beautiful. But for a puzzle game, it was just so much different. It didn't work. Bastion's has really just very active. I'll say noisy, but I don't mean that in like a negative sense. But very like noisy art. There's just like art everywhere, and tons of color, and tons of stuff going on, and that works really, really well for their game because it's an action game, right? So you're just smashing stuff and shooting guys that are moving. But in a puzzle game, with all that art, people are like, what can I use and what can't I use? You know, it becomes, they start experimenting with all the stuff because it's not really sure what exactly is usable. So we wanted to just have the mechanics, right? So everything you see, almost everything you see contributes to a mechanic. Even like the floor, you'll notice if you're walking on like any sort of stone, your footsteps are actually going to be louder than if you're walking on like grass or carpet. So you know, something to keep in mind. It's something
that's really cool.
Notice.
I didn't notice until you told me, and then I just did it right now.
Yeah.
It's gonna go over there. It's gonna...
Yeah. So we just wanted to make it about the game, make it about exactly what was happening here, and not about I don't know, necessarily all of the little things going on. But you know, tried to make it pretty.
Let's see. Another one of my favorite stories of yours is, can you give us, like, what does Noetic mean? Because I know you guys are Noetic Games. Can you give us that story?
Yeah, before I do that, I want to say this is my favorite level in the whole game. I love this. I love it because of the thing you just did where you like go to the corner and you yell at the guy. I spent not that long. I spent a few minutes making sure that it was like pixel perfect, that it was 1 pixel away. Didn't quite reach it. 'Cause everyone's like, oh! Anyways,
Okay, I know how to do
means
this.
Of or pertain to the mind or deeper thought. And so we want to make games that are of or pertain to the mind or deeper thought. Sort of the idea is that we want to make games that make the world a better place in some way. So we're working on 2 games right now, and one of them is very philosophical, has a lot of depth in the story and in the world, and that's sort of how that game is meant to make the world a better place. And then we're working on another game that's just very lighthearted and fun. Doesn't have tons of that I don't know, story depth. Doesn't have near as much story depth. But we're going to be giving a % of all profits from that game to charity. So
nice.
We're sort of experimenting with different ways that we can make games that help the world be better in different manners.
Mm-hmm. I think it's really neat. And one thing that I
that's
know
cool.
when we have conversations, since we always talk about art games or what constitutes like an art game, right? Would you mind giving your definition?
Oh my god.
I'm just asking a question that should take you, a good half an hour or so to answer.
And no matter what I say, half the internet will hate me.
Yeah.
I think it's really hard to define. I think it's a tough thing. I really love Tim Schafer. Was interviewed about this one time, and he was like, "Who cares?" But I feel like there is sort of this emergence of games that give you an experience outside of the game, right? So after I close out of the game, I'm thinking about how this affected me. And granted, there's a lot of people that have played BioShock Infinite and were like, "Whoa." And outside of the game, they're thinking about it, and that is a really cool thing. But I also think there is a little bit more to be done there. I think that we can offer streamlined life experience in a controlled environment, essentially, with games. I think that we can let people experience facets of life in a very controlled way that's not near as dangerous as the real world is. And I'm not talking about fighting people. I'm talking about I don't know, just things that you have to deal with. For example, the struggle of do I want to know what the truth is, or do I want to know what's easy? What See No Evil is about. And the idea is that after you play this, after you finish it, and after you get the final piece of narrative, you can kind of sit back and be like, okay, well, how does this apply to me? I realize my camera's not showing on my face.
Okay.
Yeah, that's sort of that's my thoughts.
There was a successful Kickstarter back in December, actually, that kind of brings to mind, where we're talking more about making almost like an interactive experience with the games that you're playing, called That Dragon Cancer. I don't know if you heard about that one.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Man. Yeah, it's for the people that don't know about it. It's a game made by 2 parents about the struggles that they had dealing with their son who was diagnosed with cancer while he was very, very, very young. And
the crazy thing is the game was originally about it was basically built to be the success story. So they're building the game around the idea of we can do this, we can push through, and halfway through development the kid actually died. And the game, the devs did this heartbreaking video where they were the game is now about I don't know, just celebrating his life and showing people I don't know, I guess our process of grieving, which is totally just heartbreaking and so beautiful. But they were just well, screw this. They instead took this terrible situation and were well, let's make something beautiful out of it. So,
and that's exactly it. Exactly. So much respect. And what I was going to point out with that one too is it's not only therapeutic for the parents because it's them immortalizing the story of their son, and I'm sure that probably helped them a lot. But as well, it's sharing the experience with you. It's not even playing the game at that point. You're actually sharing the experience
Yeah.
of the parents kind of struggle with the fact that their son's death is just nuts.
Yeah, it's tough that you brought me on here because I so badly want to talk about our other games we're working on. Not supposed
Yeah, I
to,
know.
but Ryan is over there. He's just giving me a look.
Soon we'll have you back on the show. It'll be all good.
Yes, but yeah, one of our games is definitely we're trying to do a similar thing of taking an experience that we have had, really just sort of like rough experience, and trying to not see. The thing is, there's a lot of indie games that are doing really cool artistic stuff, but they're like so dark, you know. It's just like, you should be really sad, and That During Cancer doesn't do that even. It's actually just like a really, I don't know, it's kind of eerie, but it's beautiful. But there's a lot of games that are just like, you should be really sad, like this is about sadness, so you should be sad too. And like when you play that, as like if you immediately jump in and someone's just like, be sad, you're like, well,
I don't wanna.
Like, that's a bummer, sure, what you're talking about, but I don't feel anything for it. And so
it's cool.
We're trying to make a game that deals with this really heavy subject, but in a way,
You'll need to sleep.
I mean, I think I could say this. It's from a child's perspective, so it's sort of this world that is really dark and is really hard, from the perspective of a really innocent mind. So the world kind of comes across a little differently.
Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping when you guys are ready, we will have that on the show. So I'd love to show that. And I'm not going to give anything away either, but I remember when we chatted about that game, I was actually quite worried for you guys, just because I know your situation in the studio.
Yeah.
And I will elaborate on that later on when we have you back.
Right. Yep.
Even the blind
it's
had visions in their own right.
It's a game that's very, very close to our hearts.
This time there were great advances made.
We're going to have our other game, the more lighthearted one, is going to be the first one that we're going to start talking about. We're going to make sure we show that on here, and then it'll be a little while after that we have the one that we're talking about now.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to both.
No dates. No dates. I was about to say a date, and then I'm like, no.
No.
I'm
I usually actually try to keep dates off of Average Giants because usually when we're showing on Average Giants, it's pre-alpha. It's like, you know, the developer kind of proof of concept build, so there's no way you can lock down a date.
Right. Yeah, and even like, it doesn't matter how big your studio is, no one launches the day they say they're gonna launch. Ever.
I apologize if we're talking over this storyline. If you guys really want the storyline, it's on Steam. And it's stupidly cheap.
Yeah, it's stupidly cheap. The game definitely has a lot to do with this narrative, and the voice acting turned out pretty great, so definitely...
Yeah, the voice acting's amazing.
Yeah.
Ooh. And can you tell us a little bit about the voice acting, actually? Because, like, the audio in this game was so professional, considering I know this was really just you that did this game.
Right. So this is a funny story. I don't think I've revealed this yet, so this is the big reveal. My mother was going to be wanted to be an actress when she was younger, and ended up doing a million other things. But I was like thinking about this voice, and so many games have just this really deep, like, I'm the bad guy voice, right? And so I'm like, I don't know if I want that. And I was like, I bet my mom can make her voice real creepy. And so I'm like, hey mom, like, maybe I'm working on this game. Maybe you want to help out some. And so she was all about it. And I have a good buddy named Ben Pepin who records bands. And I was like, could you record just some voice acting? He was all about it. And so, the voice acting is all my mother, which makes it so weird. People say that the voice actress sounds hot, because I'm like, no.
Please God, no.
Yeah. But so I didn't say that because it was like, I recognize that I'm young, and I was even younger when I was like working on this, and it was so hard to be like, taking me seriously and making a real game, they would be like, well, my mom's doing the voice acting. And so, yeah.
I
really?
remember you were the second youngest developer we've had on the show, because
Okay,
the
so there's
youngest.
Like he was like 12 that came on your show.
Yeah, he was doing Airscape, and he was leading his own team, which was crazy. But it's kind of interesting. I kind of wonder, actually, it's already starting to happen, but I've been wondering when we're going to see programming become a class for elementary students.
Dude, yes, I'm all about that action. That's fantastic.
It's
man,
gonna
you did this
happen.
in the wrong way, but that was cool.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, it was cool. That's like one
Wow.
of my favorite things when watching the gameplay. It's like when people beat a level, I'm like, oops.
Congratulations, you failed really good.
Yeah, you failed really good. You're supposed to block the sound with your body.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's why I told you to listen to your body.
I can
Oh,
totally.
I'm doing it too fast.
Totally see that being a thing, though. It is. Whenever anyone asks me, I have a bunch of friends who are in college, and I don't know what I want to do with my life. I'm like, become a programmer, because you'll never have to look for work until there's like a nuclear holocaust. So you're good to go until society collapses, basically. If you learn C++,
Yeah.
you're set. So yeah, I wish that's not true. I was gonna say I wish I knew how to program, but that's a lie. I really enjoy art, and I don't like programming.
I'm messing up. My own fault.
Well, come on, Peachy. You have a reputation to uphold.
This is early second chapter, man. Just early second chapter. We're ways in.
I know how to do it. I just have to work on my timing.
Yeah.
Nope. Half a second off.
Oh man, I'm watching the video, so it's like a few seconds behind. So you did the right thing for a second, and you changed it. I'm like,
There we go.
There it is.
yeah.
Nice.
I knew what I had to do to
Very
work on my
nice.
timing.
You are not the first to rebel, Seer. We have prepared ourselves.
Have you noticed something
We've
interesting in this
constructed a
game, by the
great
way?
wall around the mountain.
Like what?
That there hasn't been a tutorial. Even in that first picture, it's all the words saying space, but it's not telling you to hit space.
No.
It's compelling you to hit space. And now, like, there hasn't been any tutorial throughout the game except for your own trial and error.
Yeah, I've learned everything from just trying things. Like, sometimes, like, was it 2 levels ago? It did tell you pretty much to listen to yourself, so it was kind of telling you to block it with your body.
Mm-hmm.
But I used the box.
And yeah, that's actually something that it's a design thing I'm pretty passionate about, and it's a headache, but I just really enjoy it, which is not holding the player's hand. I mean, like, the gaming community is made of adults now. Generally, there's a majority of adults, and games themes are generally geared towards adults. But then we treat them like children when we get them in there.
Yeah.
Like, press D to move to the side. Good job, you pressed D. Great work.
Awesome.
Now press space to jump. And it's like, this isn't an accomplishment. This is like basic information that people should be able to figure out.
Most games are just like, okay, WASD,
Hey,
spacebar,
listen.
enter. I'm good to go.
Yeah. Hey, listen. Exactly.
I like
so
pushing the
trying
leaves
to
off
just-
the corners. That's really cool.
Yeah, the paper in the first level is what started
Yeah.
all that, and I was like, well, we have to have this in every level now, 'cause it's great.
What was I going to say? I think my least favorite Navi tip was if you fall in spikes, you'll die. Like,
Wow,
it just...
thanks.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of annoys me, the level of hand-holding that people think. And I don't know if it's because
Well, it's sort of
gaming has been on
insulting.
the rise. Yeah, exactly. It's completely insulting.
Yeah. It has a lot to do with, well, I think a lot of it started with, games growing really, really fast, and developers not really
that'll work.
changing the way they develop games, seeing them growing really fast, right? So we see this like 20 range being the average gamer, or 30, and then
30.
the games are still kind of catering. Yeah, games are still kind of catering to an even a much younger audience. But I think another thing is, as a developer, when you're making a game, there's this fear that like players just won't get it, right? Like, oh well, what if they fall in spikes and then they'll be mad at me because I didn't tell them? And it's sort of a goofy thing, but it's definitely real. And what that's created is now just this design theory that so many people have, where like you have to tutorialize everything, and there's not really any reason to do it anymore. It's just that everyone has been doing it for so long that it seems like something you have to do. And especially with a game like See No Evil. Like, See No Evil is a very simple game, right? You can shout, that's your mechanic, and then you can move around. And you can pull stuff. But like, that doesn't require me wasting your time for you to figure that out. It's more fun when I don't. So, it's really
I have actually known one game reviewer who they were having trouble with a game because they didn't know what WASD was for movement. The game assumed that you knew what WASD was.
Is someone that reviews games?
Yeah, there's someone that reviews games normally. Like that's part of their job, and they actually ripped the game apart because nowhere in the tutorial did it say move with WASD. That being said, I completely agree that I think games should hold our hand less.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that is a tough line because I want the gaming audience to expand as much as anyone, and part of that is making sure that we're not, our own little boys club. Making sure that it's not like WSAD is how everyone moves, so you should just know. But also, on the same hand, like, it doesn't take that much to figure it out, you know? Like, it's not too difficult to figure out. And generally, when I'm making a game for PC, I allow the arrow keys to do movement as well, just so, because it's a little bit more natural for people who don't play games. And I always make sure there's tons of customization options. So you can change the keys to be whatever you want. So if someone really can't figure it out, they can just go into options and be like, well, or A, I see it here, or B, well, I'm more comfortable with it being,
yeah, exactly.
UHJL.
But it is interesting I'm sure finding that balance of how much you want to hold the player's hand. Because in this, like I said, I love this design. It's the Mega Man X design, where you give the player their own tutorial through gameplay, so that they even feel better about the game, knowing that they figured it out themselves.
Right. Yeah. It feels, I don't know, it feels more mature, I think is the easiest way to say it. It's more mature than someone, just walking through and then being like, well, here's a challenge now. It's like the challenge is existing, so go out and exist in this world. I like this level too. This is, I'm happy with this one. This is like in the third chapter, so levels were starting to get kind of tough to build because we thought we had like exhausted all of the new interesting things to do. But the bats, those guys that are yelling too, they helped with that a lot.
I'm loving watching you play this. Now I get it. We have Might Be Giant is in the chat right now, all the way from Costa Rica, and I know how you feel now, Nick, while you were watching me play this.
Yeah. I can't see the chat. Is there people chatting right now?
There is. There's quite a few. Though Hitbox has been kind of iffy lately. So, I have no way to apologize for Hitbox, but I wish I could.
Oh, there we go. It's up now. Wow.
So one question from chat is, what has been the toughest part of level design for the game? Or what was the toughest part of level design, I should say?
Yeah, this is a while ago, but
Okay.
The toughest thing with level design, I think one of the big ones was working on people learning what to do. Basically, the thing we were talking about a second ago. That was pretty tough. there's a lot of really subtle things, like in the first level where you see a horn, there's actually an E on the ground made of stone that a lot of people don't see still. But it's like, if you can't figure it out and you spend a little while in this level, you'll probably end up seeing that. So there's a lot of little things like that. And puzzle games are especially hard to design because, like, with a shooter, for example, when you're designing the levels, you're like, you know, this bad guy's fun to fight, so we'll put a bad guy there. And you'll come around the corner and the bad guy will attack you. Maybe there's some, like, elevations or things that are exciting. With a puzzle game, it's much harder because you can't know how hard a puzzle is when you make it, because you know the answer immediately, right?
Yeah.
So, like,
interesting.
it all seems so clear to you, and then you see people play, and like there's a lot of levels that we're like gonna be in the first level, and we're like, you know, this is fine, this will work for the first level, and then you see someone else play, and you're like, oh my god, this belongs in like the third chapter. So
I actually never
yeah,
thought
it's
about
just
that.
it's weird. It's a weird thing that comes with puzzle games, but
I'm done.
yeah, they're a challenge, but it's fun.
I miss me by the skin of my ass.
What do you think about the progression of the puzzles in the game so far?
I think
Has
it
been-
progresses really well.
Mhm.
Because it's not like all of a sudden it's like a huge difficulty curve.
Okay.
It does it really well.
Follow-up question from chat. Did you have a clear vision of what you wanted the levels to look like, or did it build upon a concept that you started from the ground up?
It definitely built. This game was very much evolving as we went. I always encourage new developers when they ask me, like, how do I start making a game? I say, write a GDD, game design document, but don't get stuck on it like we talked about earlier. So we started with the GDD, and I was pretty happy with it, and then we started building, and just so much changed. Yeah, it was just constantly evolving. So the general idea of the levels not being distracting and just sort of being simple and just having the mechanics was always there, but the how they ended up turning out was sort of just like,
I'm just gonna mash the A
this
button
is
here.
great. I've never seen anyone do this. This is great. I wonder if it's possible.
I'm gonna try it.
Is this not how this level's supposed to be done?
I don't think so. No, it can't be done that way.
Seed might be giant.
Oh, okay, I'll just do it this way then. I'll yell, step on this.
By the net out here sort of sucks, he means that he's probably done his drink and needs a new one.
Sounds about right.
Oh, was that lucky? Not lucky, that was just close.
So he, the same dude that was asking the level design, asked another question. Trex Rail.
Use that to body block.
This is a while ago, so I'm trying to like remember back to those very stressful days.
Is it just a haze now?
Yeah, it's just like such a small amount of sleep and so much arting all the time. We always wanted to make the sound waves really cool but not distracting, and that was a pretty tough challenge. But in the
Well,
realm
you
of,
guys
like,
definitely
the
did it for
levels-
sure.
Cool, yeah, that's good to hear. In the actual levels, I think we just wanted to make it really, really clear. A, clear what you were trying to do, where your goal was, and B, clear what you could use to do that. Right, so like making sure that it was obvious that like the tools that you had at hand were very obvious. So no one was like, oh, I didn't realize I could use this to do that. Because we don't want that to happen. So if you go through these levels, there's actually a lot of intention with introducing small mechanics that a lot of people don't even notice. For example, stopping turrets with a crate. That's something that's used all throughout this chapter, and it's just really obvious the first time it happens. It's like, oh, well, obviously I just put a crate in front of this. But then in more complex puzzles, if we hadn't done that really obvious thing, people might not have known that was even a possibility because they don't think to necessarily do that, you know. So, yeah.
Oh, I think I see. Interesting. Interesting. Sorry, it's so hard not to watch this and be like, how would I do it at the same time? But it's that's another thing, like I was saying about the Mega Man X kind of tutorial, where what you're dealing with is it builds on itself,
Right.
so that
Right.
you constantly, excuse me, as the levels get more complex, you already know that the players have the tools to
Yeah.
to complete the puzzles. Not to say that that makes it any easier, but
Well, it makes it less frustrating for sure, and I think a better example than even Mega Man X would be just the original Mario. That game was such an innovator and did so many amazing things for the industry. But it has beautiful progression. You start the breakdown is like you start over to the left and the camera is panned over to the right, and so it's just immediately subconsciously clear that you need to move to the right. So you start moving to the right, and it was gamepad, right? So it was like that you didn't have to tell them what controls to use. And then there's an area where you can jump, but there's no consequences. And then there's an area where you can jump but you fall in a hole, and there's an area where you jump and you fall in a hole and die. So like those are the first three things that happen, and it's beautiful because if there was just the area where you fall in a hole and die, people would figure it out. But it's so much more natural and so much less frustrating when it just sort of happens. You're like, oh, I remember when I didn't fall in that hole, so I probably shouldn't fall in this hole. Yeah, it's a well-made, well-designed game for sure. Obviously, I mean, it's classic.
I don't know if my voice will reach that properly. Okay.
Zoom, zoom, and then you can
Run! Oh, I have to do it right away.
yeah.
Okay. As soon as it goes over the green.
Oh,
Oh, hit the other sound
yeah.
waves.
Oh, that's so cool.
I cut it off too soon. That's cool that the other sound waves block it out.
I like looking at this game just from an audio engineer's point of view too, because sound is like additive. So if it mixed with the other sound, it would completely get lost, which you're showing there perfectly.
Yeah, that was a fun evolution too. We had the turrets originally planned, and then I'm like, these things seem like they would be loud here. Like maybe you can't hear as well when there's these things running. So that ended up making for like tons of stuff with the levels. It was fun.
What if you move the box to the green button?
Maybe.
Just so you know, we put 2 walls there so that people didn't do what you're trying to do.
Of course!
Just to spite you.
I was like, I can totally make it.
Or could you just
Yeah.
yell at it? On the intent, you just yell at it straight. Because now the red one's up.
Yeah, I don't think it's still not gonna work. Yeah.
But if you stood where that box was.
Just gonna shoot the old man.
Oh. So interesting. It's so interesting. I'm sure the game balancing this when you guys were doing it, just the amount of angles that you had to think about from people where they were yelling at so that they didn't accidentally like trigger one of the old men or something like that.
Yep.
Must have been
There was
intense.
a lot of playtesting for this game. And it was always like, I was like 4 at the time because I didn't have like, my income was all going towards making this. So I would just have people over, and it was always like this group of friends like, hey guys, you should all come over and play the game. They'd all come over and it would break immediately. So the times where it did work, we would see what people did.
Oh, I can't do that way.
So I didn't even plan for it.
I was gonna cheese it with the box, but apparently I'm not allowed.
Does your voice not reach that far?
I'll still cheese it with the box if I can. Will that work? Okay. Maybe? I don't think I can do
that.
that.
That you were trying to do was originally what we wanted to do with this puzzle.
Huh. Interesting.
Like, just... Maybe? No.
This could be really dope.
Can I reach
Alright,
it from
don't let me
here?
down.
No. Guess he thought of that.
Yeah. I could always try and do this. So I think that'll work. Let's test it.
I feel like we're all friends here, so I'm gonna go ahead and need to choose a cracker.
Okay,
Oh.
that'll work.
Good luck, Peachy.
Nope. If I can hit the target on the right time.
Yep. Oh, that's happened. Oh,
Oh, well,
but you did do
I
it.
beat the puzzle.
Yeah, you did do it. Well done.
Holy crap! So I gave you like the biggest hint ever at the start of this. I was like, earlier in the game, we showed you that you can stop a turret with a crate, so that you know that in the future.
No, forget that noise. I'm
You're
gonna do it
just
some
like,
other
nope.
way. Welcome to me.
PG does enjoy doing things his way, I do find.
So that's there.
That's totally okay.
So I'll put him up there.
I love, because you have the tools to beat this level, and you know you do, but how intimidated do you feel right now when you walk into this and just go, this is busy?
It's busy, but I have to just work backwards from it. Okay.
Yeah, John, the programmer, he did quite a few of these levels, and I'm a big fan of levels that are just like very small, like simplistic, but like the level in the first chapter that we were talking about. There's not tons going on, but it's tough. You know, like so basically, I like things that are like elegant. Like there's not a lot there, but what is there is tough. Whereas John is like, I'm gonna put everything in a room, and it's great. It's a great balance because you have these levels that are. I mean, the challenge is equal, but some of them you're like, I can do this, and then like an hour later you're like, what the heck? And then something like this, you walk in, and you're like, oh, no idea.
Yeah.
So it's a good balance.
I get that with puzzle games quite often, even with like Super Meat Boy, where I get to one of the later levels and my immediate reaction would just be to cry.
That does work.
I want to do it. I want to
Yeah. I don't want to.
I'm just gonna do it in here until he resets.
Oh, he is reset.
Well, I think I broke him.
He's bumping into the box, so he's just gonna. He's not a very smart guy.
No.
That guy in particular. Just
He
kidding.
wants to meet you.
He really wants to meet me. Hi, my name's Killer Peachy, and I'm gonna kill you on these spikes. Please? Okay, there we
Man,
go.
he is coming for you.
Yeah. Oh, there it is.
Like, he just wanted me.
He's like an impatient. What's that line? An impatient paleontologist, and he wants a day too badly.
Oh, that's terrible.
I like terrible. Oh, I see what you do. Smart.
Now, I want to know if that'll reach down to there, which I think it will. Oh, where am I going? I can go up that way. Derp.
Oh, I see. But how are you going to turn the other one?
That one?
Mm-hmm. So you go boom, boom, boom.
I'll sneak in there. Maybe.
So in this level, there's two old men sitting on green buttons. Does that mean that there are multiple ways to do this one? So it feels like I know. Sorry, that's a really specific question about a game that you haven't worked on in a long time, but it just feels like yeah, it feels like both of those old men would do the same function. So I'm wondering if it's to throw the player off, or if there was like multiple ways to do the level originally. But
no, it's
I mean,
actually I think they're both necessary. I'm pretty sure they're both necessary. One of the cool things about puzzle games is that like after making it like and you go a few months and then you come back to it and you're like, I have no idea how to do any of these. So it's kind of fun. I mean, there's
Talking
some
about they
that
gave me a
remember,
box.
like,
I know how to do this.
Yeah, some of the really tough ones are ones that I like remember, but there's ones like this that I'm just like
Did you get teasing with the box?
I think you could have done that even without the box. So.
Probably. They gave me a box. Why?
You nailed it, man.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that was the way to do it.
Yeah. That is really cool. I love this game.
Look at that.
I'm
It's a
so
big old
cool.
wall. I'm really enjoying this game. It's a lot of fun. Okay.
I haven't eaten since breakfast, so I'm just like muting my mic and eating all of the cheesy crackers. Which gives me... It's my favorite because when you eat mozzarella cheese crackers, it just reminds me of Wallace and Gromit. And the jam.
Oh shit.
Freaking
Wallace
love
and Gromit
Wallace
was
and Gromit.
awesome.
Yeah, I love Wallace and Gromit.
It's about as good as it gets.
And then yell at him. Oh, I took the way too long on that.
Yes, you did.
Because it's supposed to be like yell.
Then yell. Oh,
No.
well, you know,
Yeah.
get in there, and then yell.
Oh.
You stood.
I stood on that again because
You
I'm
had
a
it
goof.
too.
No!
This one we contemplate putting in because of how frustrating it is. But I love it.
This is
I didn't make it in time. Close.
This is the perfect kind of level for Peachy, where it has to be like pixel precision correct.
I may be a glutton for punishment.
That
Like
is your
that.
jam. That is so definitely your jam.
Okay.
You're
Then after
putting
make
your jam
that.
on wrong. Oh my god. That was tight.
Okay, so
Man, Peachy, you're doing all of these in a way I haven't seen. Not all of them. A lot of them I haven't seen. Pretty cool. It's been so long since I watched anyone play this.
Yeah. Well, I wanted. This is probably going to be the last week that Peachy is guest hosting, so I wanted to find
am I
something
doing?
difficult for him to do. So I thought this would be a naturally good one for him.
Yeah, this is a tough one. If you get to the 4th chapter, I'm glad that it's far
Yeah.
enough now that I don't care if you just like play through the whole game.
Yeah, that was also one of my shticks.
Yeah, it was funny. The first time I came on here, I was like, can we like try not to get too far into the 2nd chapter because I like want people to experience it for yourself. You're like, yeah, we'll take it slow. And then like near the end of the thing, you're like, I think I can make it to the 2nd chapter, maybe.
sorry.
I am kind of an idiot when it comes to puzzle games, though.
No, but it was good. So this is actually cool now because I
Oh, shit.
don't care how far you get because I mean you can find playthroughs of the whole game on YouTube. So
Yeah, very true.
there's no hiding it now.
Okay.
So how? You has no box.
It's actually
There's a hidey hole right
one
there.
Weird thing is
That's
you
what I was
definitely
looking
have
for.
like a relatively large Russian following.
Really?
I don't know how that happened. Yeah, I don't know what is going on there, but like everyone's like, do a Russian translation. And I got like a bunch of emails from like Russian translators, and I'm like, that sounds cool, but like it's pretty expensive.
need
Like,
that.
how many Russians actually want to? So if you're Russian and want to see See No Evil Made, follow us on Twitter.
Yeah. I wouldn't even know where to go to find a good like translator for game.
They find you. Let me tell you what.
Really?
Yeah. Them and sound guys, man. Look, sound guys, I appreciate all the emails, but like, we have a sound guy.
Oh, I'm not gonna make. Oh, I made it.
Oh man.
Oh.
You get like 3 emails a day from sound guys.
Oh wait, I have to hit that box.
No!
I'm just gonna die now.
Though I gotta point out, that is totally a PG moment where he gets the mist away and he's like, oh, there's a hidey hole. The mist comes back and he's like, oh, I don't need this. And then he just does it with the mist where he can't see. That's perfect killer PG.
Actually, if you hug the top wall, you don't get shot at all.
Oh, really?
Just so you know, developer.
Way to figure it out.
If you just press up and then right at the same time,
Nice.
you're just like do.
And you got an achievement. Blind fire.
Sweet.
Oh yeah. So now I remember the story to that, which is that glitch was there after launch, and we were like working on fixing it as well as working on achievements, and then we just made an achievement instead of fixing it.
You know what? That's fair.
Call it lazy development or masterful development.
Hey, if Goat Simulator can put in an achievement for crashing the game and then relaunching the game, I'm pretty sure you can put in an achievement for a glitch.
Gosh, Goat Simulator is just full of classic things. I love their update notes. Their patch notes are so good.
Yes.
Added VR, took out VR.
Oh man. So what did you guys do after once you launched the game? Did you just like, I'm going to Disneyland, and you just decided to take like a 6-month break, or did you take the longest nap in the world?
This is like the story. This is the story about the game that you haven't heard yet.
Okay.
Yeah. So the game launches, and I'm like freaking out, right? I just worked like a long time, like almost a year, on this thing tirelessly, and I like basically bet the farm on it because I quit my job and like started Noetic before this released. So the release date comes, I get up, I like go out there, I open up Steam, like I couldn't sleep all night, I open up Steam, there's like Steam partner page or whatever, and log in and go to my sales things, and Steam's sales records were down that whole day.
Oh,
Like never has it happened.
Brutal.
Like it hasn't happened since. I've never seen it happen since, but that day they were down, and so I'm just like, what is happening? It was the most stressful day.
Heart attack, yeah.
Oh my god.
Because it was like, I have no way of knowing if this is doing well or not. Like, absolutely no clue if anyone's buying the game. So, that was stressful.
Brutal.
After that, there was a lot of just like, what do I do now? Now that I made the game. Like, what do people do?
Did you just start binge playing games?
Oh, right.
Now that you could,
I started making another game immediately after. It was like a couple days after that we started on the next game. So, no time
comment
to
from
waste.
comment from chat when you made the comments that Steam sales were down is that you just broke everyone's heart.
It was rough. It was a
That
bad
reminds
day.
me of what is it, Indie Game the movie, when they launched Super Meat Boy, and the same thing happens on like XBLA, and they're just freaking. I could not imagine the stress. No,
it's like a year of working so hard with so many unknowns, right? Like so many things
that'd
you
be
just can't predict.
so
Like,
rough.
will it sell? Will it do this? Whatever. And then the one day we're like, the one thing that you know is that you'll know how well it does, right? Like that's the one
Yeah.
thing that you know. You don't know how well it will do, but like you know that you'll know how well it does, and you're like ready to see how well it's gonna do, and then you're like totally in the dark, and you're like, what? That's just a terrifying. Yeah, it was a wonderful test of my patience.
Oh god. But we're here now. Things went well.
Yep.
It went pretty well.
This is a really good
We're making
game.
good games now.
Run the horn is here before me. I'll wait beyond this wall.
Okay, so I dropped the green, he's gonna yell the whack, and that guy's gonna drop the blue.
It's really cool when people take time to
Oh,
I don't know, read the notes and listen to the narrative and actually like put together the story. Because it's not quite like as upfront with the storytelling as a lot of games are. But I don't know. I really my favorite thing is reviews where people talk about where people get the game but like actually understand what I was trying to say. It's always really exciting. So I'm like, good, like for the 10 people that play it and are just like, that was a hard puzzle game. There's like that one guy who's like, you know, this was moving or made me think. Like my favorite review ever is Into GPU did a review where they're like, I can't remember all of it, but it was like, this is gaming's evolution as an art form, and like it's so refreshing to see a game that, I don't know, like it talks about all these things, and I'm like, yes, that's what I wanted to hear. Hardcore Gamer had a really great review of it too.
That's
And
great.
Indie Magazine did a review.
Yeah. Yeah, whatever, you know.
Those guys.
Those are pumped.
Okay.
That was one thing, like, I wanted to ask too, after the game's launch, now that you can find playthroughs on YouTube and people streaming it and that kind of stuff, was that a worry for you guys during development? Because I know, like, this is a game that you want to take in as an experience, and you don't necessarily want to have your experience shouted out on YouTube by itself. So is that something that you guys were worried about before the game launched? Or after the game launched, I mean?
It was one of those things where you just gotta accept reality, you know? You just gotta know that some things are gonna happen, right? Like, it sucks, but some people are gonna pirate the game. It sucks, but some people are gonna, like, day one do playthroughs. And so, like, those things are just things that you sort of come with the territory, you know? You can ask people not to, but it happens. So, yeah, I mean, I think enough people, I guess where I stand is, like, in that position, like, people can make the decision. If you want to experience the game, if you want to have the fullest experience, then just play it. And I know that, like, I don't even watch full movie trailers anymore because they're so long and give so much away.
Yeah.
So do you remember when trailers were like half the length? When did that happen? This is like the oldest person thing I've ever said, but like,
And
since when in my day, or like, but
Back
like,
in my day.
yeah, they like used to be like a really appropriate length, and you could watch the whole thing and be like, I don't really know what all's going on there, but I get the idea and I want to see it. And now it's like, here's a summary, and it just shows you the movie. It's such a bummer. So I don't even watch full movie trailers. I just watch the beginning. I'm like, I thought that was cool. I'm like, neat. I want to watch that.
it's
I try not to watch. Sorry.
I was gonna say, you ever get that feeling like when you watch the preview for a comedy movie, and then you go watch the movie and it's like all the funny jokes are in the review or in the preview. So yeehaw.
You took out the filler clips for your
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing. And so I tried, like, I enjoy looking up on YouTube Let's Plays and watching a fair bit. And if it's an older game or if it's a game that I'm like, you know, I'm probably not going to end up buying this, but I still want to see what's going on. I watch Let's Plays, but I try not to spoil too much, because I understand, as a developer, I understand that there's a lot of stuff that is only the same when you're experiencing it yourself. And that's one of the beautiful things about games, that you get to, like, be a part of this world. So, yeah. Is what it is the short answer.
We had another good question in chat. Does the good reviews and Let's Plays make you nervous as well as the bad ones? Apparently that question is why Trexrel and Yin, they're making a game together. Him and his, they're married, and they don't watch trailers because of that kind of thing. But sorry, do good reviews and Let's Plays make you as nervous as bad ones?
So See No Evil got a lot of really good reviews. Like, all the reviews were great, and so there was like 2 that like weren't so great, and those were just heartbreaking. Because it wasn't like an enormous game, right? Like, it wasn't like, I'm not like filthy rich or anything. It gave me enough to keep going and to like hire someone and be working on 2 games. Like, so it did what it needed to do for sure. Because, like I said, it was my first project, so I wanted to be smaller. But like the reviews that did happen were all like usually really good, and that was really exciting. But then like there was one guy who just like his computer couldn't run the game for whatever reason, and we couldn't figure out why. And we like actually got in touch with him and were like, "What are your specs? Because like everyone should be able to run this." And he gave them to us, and it was like the exact same as my programmer. He was like, "I don't know what's going on." So that was really stressful and nerve-wracking because we're like, there's this experience that clearly people like that's being overshadowed by this issue. And then there's a lot of people that mentioned that they wanted a little bit more of the world, a little bit more story. And my thought was that, I guess this is just my optimistic view on this, it was just like, if there's any complaint to be had, people saying, I wish I had more, is probably like the best complaint.
That's a problem you definitely want to have for sure.
Great. I hope you have more soon. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So it's. I think reviews are most stressful before they happen. Like when you send it out to people to review, it's always just like you don't sleep because you're like, what if my email didn't get through, or what if like the name of my email was too weird and so they're just not going to look at it, or. And then when you do see a review come up, you have like your heart stop and you're like, oh, I hope it doesn't suck. And then when you see that they're happy, it's just a relief. Like that's all you can feel, because it's like, wow, well at least they didn't hate it. That's good.
And I can attest to the fact that having technical issues, like I've actually bumped into that. I had a game, I won't say which game, but it had a AAA budget, and I have a computer that's made for streaming, so more than most gaming computers would need. And for whatever reason, I could not get it to work. The contact I had with the company couldn't help me get it to work. We went to their tech support, who couldn't get it to work. And they actually had to outsource to another tech support company. And the combined intellect of the four groups finally figured out a way to make the game work.
Did you turn it off and on again?
Yeah. That was actually the first thing they said. But it's interesting because you never know, right?
There's so many different computers and they all have their different quirks. So it's tough to develop. And I mean, not just computers, monitors size, and other people, like what kind of gamepad people are using. Like all those things are terrifying because you're like, if someone plugs in a Nintendo gamepad that somehow is able to work with this, will they be able to play? Because if they can't, they're gonna complain. And the bigger concerns are will the monitor stretch stuff, or will the game not run, stuff like that. And it's just, that's one of the no fun parts of developing. Yeah. Because you're having fun going along the game, and then someone's monitor, See No Evil, there was a while back where it was in development. It's long fixed now, but if you played it on too big of a monitor, the options in the main menu for play and stuff would be off screen. So you can see. Yeah, so that was annoying, and too small monitors. But it's part of it, I guess. It can't all be. Well, I mean, it's all pretty tough, but there's some things that are tougher than others.
All right.
And you're so close to the fourth chapter.
I know, you're actually a little bit stumped. You got way further than I did. Way further than I did.
Let's put that there. Pop that. That's gonna block him.
Mm-hmm.
You only had half the time though, didn't you, Nick?
Yeah. He's had an extra half an hour or so now. Yeah. But he is a lot better at games than I am.
No.
I'm big enough to admit it.
This one.
I mean, not being great at games gives you a longer experience, right?
Yeah, very true. Being average at games. I'm totally fine being average at games.
The average gamer, some might say.
Exactly. Apparently, this episode feels more like a game developer panel, which is awesome.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, here's an interesting question. I'm not sure if you can actually answer this one. When did you know that your game was a commercial success? Also from chat.
Oh man, well, I'm gonna answer this. I'm gonna answer this entirely truthfully and say, I'll tell you when I knew it wasn't a commercial success. And then when I realized that just because you don't make $1 million doesn't mean you can't have like, it doesn't mean it can't be considered a success, right? So like, when those sales numbers did come up the next day, I was devastated. And I remember really bummed out. It just wasn't near as good as I wanted it to be. And it was funny because the entire development process, I was like, this game isn't really meant to make tons of money. It's just meant to like get us that next step. Like it's too small to be like, it was never meant to just be like a huge hit or anything. And so, you know, that was the plan. But then after you put it out there, you're like, I want this to either be the biggest deal or nothing. Like as soon as it's out there, you're like, I want people to know. And
yeah,
it was really terrifying. It was a huge bummer when I saw it because I was like, well, Bastion made more money than this. Like, I must have failed. But then, like, after like getting the monthly, because Steam sends out their checks monthly, right? And after you start to get those, you're like, oh, okay, so I'm making money. This is kind of cool. Like, because you start to be able to put it in perspective. You're like, day one, I didn't sell 1 million copies, so I'm a failure. And then like you start to see it come, and you're like, okay, so there's like, games have some longevity in their ability to be, you know, successful. So like when we knocked down the price point, it was a huge bump in sales, and you know, we made a fair bit of money. And there were times where we did sales and a similar thing happened. So yeah, it's one thing that people ask me all the time. I get tons of questions from younger developers who are like trying to put their game, or not necessarily like younger age-wise, but like a bit newer to the field developers who are trying to put the game on Steam. I get questions like, you know, like how many copies did you sell, or like how well can I expect my game to do? And I'm like, don't expect your game to do well. Just if you're making a game to make a bunch of money, especially as your first game, like you probably shouldn't expect much out of it. If you're making a game that you can care about in some way, like you can get passionate about it, then that's something that's cool. And like I was definitely wanting money out of this, but I also really cared about what the game was, and I think that's sort of like the healthiest way to go about it. Yeah, so you know, I like to think if you make a good game and you know take the right steps, you're gonna get some buys, but it's hard to know. It's a tough market, and that's the thing is, the bigger that you get, the easier it is.
Yeah.
Like even just releasing See No Evil, I now have like contacts in the press, and like I have Nick, who's like my bro, chat. I'm always like asking for his autograph and stuff, and pictures.
Oh yeah, totally.
But no, so like I have connections now, and I have experience now, and I can afford a small team now, and all of those things allow me to make better games easier that have more visibility. And I'm sure after the two that we're working on now come out, it'll be, you know, twice as easy to make better games, more visibility.
It's gonna be like pixel perfect.
So yeah, that was a good Trexrel. I like their questions. You've been working on a game.
They
What's
like
your
your
game
answer.
called?
Their game is called Celestial Tier. Demon's Revenge Celestial Tier. It's really neat. It's a JRPG style.
This wasn't like the one that went before See No Evil when it came on, was it?
Possibly. I'll check the
I'm like...
That would be so funny.
This. Yeah, I think this was the... Oh, I can't be sure. I feel like this was the game. This totally was the game. This was the game that came on. Your game was the game that came on before See No Evil. Yeah.
Well, there you go. There you go. So you know what game
What
they're
fun.
making. Yeah.
There we go.
What
I did
fun.
it.
Yeah, I've heard of you guys.
Ah,
Big shots.
there we go.
Oh yeah, there you go. Episode 23. Wow, which is crazy because this is like episode 46 now or something. How nuts is that?
That was a really good level.
We should start keeping track of how many episodes are between Noetic coming on for
Freedom
games.
is a lust.
Totally.
See
Oh,
the
you did
average
it.
episode.
I did it.
Is
Yeah.
an ignorance.
Oh man, you're here.
Significance is belligerence to the incompetence of man. The maleficence of the ignorant is the concept that they can, the concept that their hands are vessels to put hope in. Truth is, the world seems darker with your eyes open.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. There's a little tidbit of the narrative. However, now we have to talk
Yeah,
over
we
the
were
rest.
quiet.
Blah, 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 blah.
By the game.
This game's really cool. Like, it's not so difficult that I'm just gonna rage quit, but it's not too easy. I'm just like, all right, whatever, blah 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 blah. I'm done.
It's
That
balanced pretty
is,
well.
Like, that's the challenge with puzzle
You guys
games. It's
balanced
like,
it like
Mm-hmm.
fucking right on.
That's so good to hear.
The
That's
razor
the tough thing with
blade.
puzzle games. It's like
No.
it's always you're always worried it's gonna be too hard or too easy. It's so hard to know because everyone's a little different.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, frozen man, be unfrozen. Nope, he's frozen.
And
He's
the
dead.
fourth chapter. I always get excited when I see this played on YouTube and stuff because
Shut mine.
it's the one I've seen the least of. You know, like
Yeah.
I played all the other levels way more because I would like play them when I made them and then play through the whole game and then play them when I made them, play through the whole game that we had. So the fourth chapter I played the least and Saw played the least because not so many people get to it, you know.
Mhm.
So it's kind of fun.
Interesting.
So he's gonna follow me as soon as I step on that mud.
You're actually moving through really quickly.
That's peachy.
How fast it's been. Yeah,
That's
it's,
gonna go,
it's
that's
kind
gonna
of
go
crazy.
there. That's gonna go
Yeah.
there. That's gonna go there. That's gonna go to there. Okay.
He's a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to games, which leads well that way. Oh man, he just didn't
yeah.
stop following you now, eh?
No, he won't stop following me now. That's gonna go around to there. So that needs to go that way.
I don't think that one is situated.
Nope. This one's not situated
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Teamwork.
I'll have to move it in a minute here.
So, question for you:
Mm-hmm.
if you had to compare See No Evil to a game or a few games, what would you compare it to?
I'm gonna let you answer that one.
I don't know. I'm interested because I get that question a lot, and I'm always like, you know, like,
I
like
really
things
don't
sort of
know.
original.
I've
Yeah.
never seen a game like this.
I have to throw the Devil's Tuning Fork in there, just
Oh,
because
yeah.
you guys have
The
great
sound
audio
thing, yeah.
mechanics like them.
Devil's Tuning Fork. I don't think I played that.
It was a student game. Actually, I think they did a full release, but like 4 or 5 years later, after Markiplier did a video on it. Devil's Tuning Fork definitely for the audio. The puzzle and the aesthetics, though, are completely unique. Like, this is such a well-done, unique style of a game.
Cool. I realize now it seems like I was fishing for a compliment there.
No,
Like,
not at
so,
all.
You've never seen anything like
Oh,
this,
fuck, I
have you?
forgot that one. No, I've never seen anything like it, but it's really cool because it's unique and it's, like I said, it's challenging but not overly challenging and not too easy.
It's very compelling.
It is,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna play it again off stream because I want to do the whole story.
You can
And-
throw it up
Yeah,
on YouTube.
Maybe
that means a lot to me. Yeah.
because I've been like
that
talking to
game-
you and playing through it. I've been like, whatever for the story. I want to show gameplay and whatnot. I don't want to ruin the story for
Yeah.
people.
And that's
Yeah,
one of the
it-
things... Oh, sorry, go ahead, Gabriel.
I was just gonna say that it means a lot to me because the game was designed to be fun so that people would enjoy playing it, but it was designed at all because I had something I wanted to say.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's like with a lot of Noetics games, that's what we're doing. We want to make sure that they're fun and they're entertaining and that people can and maybe fun isn't even the right word. We want to make sure that they're entertaining, and that people can really get into them. But often with our games, there's like something that we really care about people hearing, that we want to say, and this is our way of saying it. So
the thing that I can't wait to see from Noetic is I call it the Max Payne effect. That you guys have the gameplay there to keep the games fun and to keep your players engaged, but they stay for the story. And that's when Max Payne, the first one, came out, I bought the game because bullet time. But then I got so completely like obsessed with the story of what was going on with this dude and his family and his effing problems and his drug addictions that I couldn't stop playing it.
Dude, yeah.
I'm gonna need this box for the screen one.
We call it here one of our design theories. I'm gonna release this to the public, so maybe Ryan will be mad at me. But one of our design theories here is what we call the gradient of depth. And the idea with that is if you, like, no one puts in Schindler's List expecting it to be anything but Schindler's List, right? And you put it in, you're like, this is about to be heavy. And you're like, kind of sit back, like, you know, a little bit like worried. And then you get to the whole movie and you're like, it was heavy. There's no gradient there. It's just like, it's a heavy movie. And if you don't want to watch something that's like really intense, you don't watch it. And so like, that's cool. But often with games, there's just like this immediate like punch in the face of like feels, and you're like, I didn't really get much out of that. So actually, watch The Visioneers. It's my favorite movie. Freaking love it. It's got Zach Galifianakis in it. And so you're like, this is going to be a comedy, and it is kind of a comedy. But then it like gradients into something fantastic. Yeah, it's so good. But the point is with our games, we want to try and offer something that's really entertaining and not get too caught up in like, this is emotional to me, so I just want to make it and I don't care if it's fun or not, because if it's not entertaining in some way, then like no one's going to play it, so no one's going to hear what you want to say. So we try and make it entertaining, but then have this like slow gradient into like slowly getting deeper and deeper. It's similar to a relationship, right? Like the gameplay flirts with you and it's like, oh, look at my sexy gameplay. And you're like, okay, and you like start talking to it. They start playing the game, and then it's like, there's actually a lot more to me. Like, let me talk to you about that. Now that you're here, now that you care, let me talk to you about things that really, really matter. And so, yeah, I mean, that's like one of our big design theories that we try and do for all of our games. And like I said, we're working on one game right now that is just like, it's not that at all. It's just totally fun and goofy, and a percent of it goes to charity. So that's sort of what we're doing with that, right? It's going to be making the world a better place in a different way than we usually do. But another one of the games we're working on is definitely exactly that. It's very lighthearted and fun and sort of whimsical, but then gradients into this depth and this messages that we want to deliver. So yeah, that would be something that I would recommend looking into for all game developers, because it's a cool thing. And watch The Visioneers and then make a game about it.
That's really quite cool. It's, I'm not trying to give anything away, and I'm not going to give anything away, but just knowing the other project that we've talked about and relating it to exactly what you're saying with that, I cannot wait to see exactly what you guys are going to come up with that.
Man, I love that when you like told me that you wanted me on here, I was talking around, I'm like, what am I going to do? And you were like in the talk, and I'm like, we're just gonna hype up our new games the whole time, and I was totally joking, but like, it's like, wow, it's gonna be so good. Everyone's gonna love it so much.
I am legitimately excited for that project, though. I have been for months.
Yeah.
So,
me too.
We do have another question from chat from Trex, who is completely engrossed with this episode, which I'm so glad you guys are watching. So, do you want to do more with these characters in the future? Or is this story that what it is in this game and enough? Or like, is this it for them?
This is a complicated question. This is an FAQ, so I'm going to answer it officially here in Average Giants. See No Evil is finished. This game has everything that I wanted to say, and everything I wanted to do with it is in this game. We talked a lot about a sequel when it was actually going to be more of a prequel when we started to get near release, and that maybe someday, I guess I won't cut it out, that could someday happen, but for the time being, everything that I wanted to put across with See No Evil is put across. We were thinking about is totally just like thought. There's nothing here. I'm not promising anything to anyone, but we had thoughts of doing like a prequel that started off without like with your eyes closed and sort of explored some of that and the progress of people closing their eyes.
Oh, interesting.
And like, I guess it would be similar to like that Devil's Tuning Fork thing I looked it up after you mentioned it.
It's a neat little game for sure. It's discombobulating, I think is the best way to say it.
But I mean, the answer to the question is really, I made this game because I wanted to say something, and I said it, and so now I don't feel like there's any reason to have it lose its weight because I'm trying to stretch it out, you know, for the money that's in sequels.
So we're not expecting Hear No Evil 2015.
Not
Speaking
yet.
Evil.
Yeah, 2016.
Oh man, official release dates. That's the one. You just leaked all of our nicknames.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's okay. I know you guys are on Valve time, which is an old term.
So like never.
Yeah. No, I like to think we do pretty good with it because like See No Evil. Well, our big thing when we were developing it is like everyone's like, when is it coming in alpha? I'm like, it's not. It's gonna be released. And then like when it came out, people were like, so is this the beta? I'm like, no, this is a game. We didn't screw around with that because like in actual like game developers terms, like what alpha and pre-alpha, what freaking pre-alpha means, what alpha means, and what beta means is like pre-alpha means like you don't have any art. It's like blocks and you get mechanics in. Like that's pre-alpha. And then like alpha, you start to get some art, you start to get things along, and then beta means like you're like pretty much ready to go.
Now it's just
you're
bug testing.
up. Right.
Yeah.
And like I've seen AAA studios are doing this. Everyone's doing this now. With games that are like done, like beautiful art, full environments, full levels, and they're like, "This is our pre-alpha footage." And I'm like, "No, it's not." Like, what was before? Like, what is your full game going to be like? This is pre-alpha. That's freaking amazing. But, anyways, got off on a rant there.
No, yeah, totally.
I like to think that like we with See No Evil, I was really intentional about just like making a game, not talking about it until it was like getting close to being ready to release, and then releasing it and being like, this is it, you get it, it's polished, it's good to go, play it. Yeah, so I don't remember how I got here, so I don't know how to finish this.
I find the opposite true sometimes too. Like game, it's launched now. Planetary Annihilation is launched, right? Yeah. But watching that progress, because like early access hit, and then it was, you know, alpha, and then it was like $130 in alpha. Yeah. And then it was beta, and they dropped it like $30, and then it was gamma, and I was like, by the time you're at gamma, yeah, that's post beta.
That's not even a cycle. That's not even a cycle phase. It's not even
what
happens in game development.
They're like,
that's hilarious.
They're just waiting to give it the green light, going, I don't know if the hype is enough for us to say it's launched yet.
Releasing our Zeta build. That's really funny. That game looks cool though. It's one of those ones that every time I see it, or especially when it's on sale, I'm like, I should pick that up, but then I just don't end up doing it. Which I hate saying, because whenever someone says something like that about See No Evil, I'm like, just freaking do it. So maybe I should. I'm gonna buy it after this show. How about that? Yeah. Planetary Annihilation people who are watching, you should buy See No Evil. Make a trade.
Let me know if you do get Planetary Annihilation, by the way. Peachy and I play it.
Yeah,
I'll play it with you. I don't usually play with him because I don't like getting roughed on that hard.
Okay. Have you got to Don't Starve together yet?
Yes, actually.
I have.
We got into the beta for that, oddly enough, because we had the team on Average Giants. And
word.
Yeah, they wanted to do Don't Starve Together on Average Giants, like show off the beta here, but we just never kind of got around to it.
Yeah. Yeah, they're. I don't actually know those devs. You should put me in touch with those devs. Expand my contacts.
Actually, you just reminded me. I really got to talk with them.
Yeah, cool. Talk to them about how they should talk to you.
Yeah, definitely. They're really nice guys.
Yeah, it's always really cool. It's really cool because like after, especially after releasing See No Evil, I like met a lot of developers that was like, they like seemed like gods to me, and then you realize they're people, and it's really cool. You're like, oh man, I like you guys. Yeah, and I chatted some with like the Bastion team, and they're like super chill. Like things like that are just like beforehand you're just like, Bastion, this game is amazing. And then like you talk to them, you're like, these are humans, and I can do it too.
That's so neat.
Yeah.
Actually, we get that a lot being the host of Average Giants too, because nobody ever thinks to talk to the people behind the games, I find. Well, like on streams, that kind of stuff. So we'll get it like, oh, who have you talked to? And I'll say, oh, like See No Evil, Don't Starve, we did Banner Saga, and we'll say a name that they recognize. And just be like, oh my god, you talked to them? As if it was some, like, celebrity that I had to, like, track down in the back of an alley and just be like, what's your comment?
I have pants on right now. I'm eating cheese and crackers during the interview.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It is. It's kind of an enigmatic scene, though. It's kind of cool that way.
I really love, on, like, the flip side of that, one of the most exciting things for me ever since releasing See No Evil. One of my favorite things is when I'm talking to someone and they ask what I do, and I tell them about Noetic, and then I say, like I made See No Evil, and it gives me chills every time still when someone's like, oh, you made See No Evil? I'm like, yeah, I did, you know about it. So that's always really exciting. Because it seems like no one should know, like it seems like it's still just that game I'm developing in my apartment and like spending all my money on. So it's really cool when it's really cool when I I moved to Colorado from Florida. So I moved like on the other side of America, and then I'm just like at some park and some guy, knows about See No Evil. It's just like, that's crazy, that's wild. So it's like on the flip side, like it's meeting people who have like experienced this thing that I made, that I put out there, that like I never got to see the faces of the people who played it. Like, that's crazy exciting.
Oh, that's much easier than I thought it was. This is probably going to be our last puzzle for tonight.
But just all the puzzles.
We're coming up.
Yeah.
Oh, holy Trex. Okay, hang on. I have a
chapter and a half to read.
Do you ever think that you would want to expand your talents into other multimedia? As you've said that you would like players to want to connect with your games even when they're done playing. Could you see anything you're doing expanding outside of games, like books, shorts, comics, or anything like that? Or do you see games as being the ultimate art form? And you only have 5 minutes.
Questions.
You
only have all the internet hate me questions. Okay.
You only have 5 minutes to answer.
And then overnight he becomes Phil Fish. Okay, so the last thing is gonna be hard to answer, but I will say I love comics. I get super into comics. I get into role playing, like D&D. I love D&D. I recently found D&D, and I'm just like, this is great.
Yes, it is.
I've enjoyed books. I don't read books near as often as I should, but there's great books, and I love movies and shorts, and so all of these mediums I find to be like beautiful things that are awesome in their own sense. I think that games do something that is particularly exciting to me, and that the player gets to be involved. But like, sometimes it's cooler if the player isn't involved. Like sometimes, like, it would have been really, really hard. I don't think of a really good example here. I mean, A Beautiful Mind is pretty good. I guess Beautiful Mind is a pretty good example. Beautiful Mind would have been really hard to experience the way that you do when you watch a movie in a game. It would have been hard to gamify. There's got to be a better example of that, because now I'm thinking about how cool Beautiful Mind type game would be. I know there's an example here. Okay, Into the Woods. Into the Woods. Just saw that. That was a great movie. It's much less dark than the play, but it's still really good. Wouldn't have been a good game. It would have been a bad game. But I'm totally glad that it was a movie. I'm really glad that it exists. So saying anything is the ultimate art form, like I totally understand the sentiment when people say that, because I've like wanted to be in that place where I'm like, this is all that art has accumulated to. This is it. because it combines so many things, and it is really cool in that sense. Also, like, sometimes the amount of stuff that's there doesn't necessarily make art better. So I don't think it's the ultimate art form. I think it is a beautiful art form, and I love it. And as to not answer the question of like, would I do the other stuff? I guess I feel like I've spent years learning how to make games, and I feel like I'm still just like okay at it. So the idea of getting into like anything else is really terrifying. But hopefully, once we get to a place at Noetic where we're a little bit more solidified than we are now, I'll have the ability to explore those things. So I don't know. It's tough to answer. Like I said, I think that the main answer that I have for that is like I've spent years and years and years of my life working on game design theory and 2D artwork and 3D artwork and animation and all the stuff, right? And I feel like I already have like a really broad understanding of like for a game designer, it's like I do a lot on the games. Like I don't just design, or I don't just like do some of the concepts. Like I do all the art and all the design, and I direct music and programming and level design. And so like there's so much there that like so many things that I don't feel like I'm good enough at, or anywhere near good enough at. And then the things that I feel like I'm pretty good at are things that I know I have so much to improve on. So going into any other medium is just like I can't even handle all the stuff that I have to get better at there. So like I still have a while before I'm good enough at making games to do anything else, I think.
I think that's a pretty good answer, actually. I think you nailed that one pretty well. Okay, one last question from Trex. Easier one. Maybe. What was your best marketing strategy?
What
the question that every indie developer needs to know.
There are awesome resources online for marketing stuff, and half of them are accurate, so that's really cool. But
it doesn't activate that one. Okay. I go with the Jesse Cox theory of advertising like a shameless whore.
Okay. My worst. Before I answer that, my worst was if a YouTuber comes to you and they're like, "Hey, can I have a free copy of your game? Here's my YouTube channel," and their email matches their YouTube channel. Don't give them a copy.
Yeah.
I love you YouTubers, but it took me giving away like a lot of copies before I was like, these aren't real YouTubers. These are just people.
Yeah, we actually had issues like that. Being like just from the press side of it, we had a lot of issues where developers didn't want to give copies to my editor because of developers getting burnt by people like that.
It sucks really, really bad. But like, I mean, that's one of those things that helps when you like know people. Like now that I know IGM and have like Vinny and you and basically the guys I have all on Skype, I can just like hit you up and be like, hey, I got this game coming out at this time. If you want to do an article about it, like that. That's pretty cool. And like recently have gotten contacts with like Kotaku and things like that. It's really exciting. Oh gosh.
My butt almost got shot.
What is the best? What's my best marketing strategy? Make a game. That's my best marketing strategy. I made a video game. No, I really want to answer this. I feel like you deserve an answer after all of your active commenting. And the thing is, like, I know how crazy intimidating it is to like be at that point where you want to start marketing and you just not having a clue how. And I guess I don't know if you guys are there or not. I'm just I'm aware that this question needs to be answered. This is so tough.
Yeah, no, I know. And it's hard to say what works for any one game either, I'm sure, too.
Yep. Yeah, I think I would say the best marketing strategy right now, my view of that would be taking your game to events. But we didn't take Sinoi for anything. So yeah. Events are so cool, and taking the game and showing off.
I can't put a box up there.
So I would say take your game to events. Take your game to events. That's Gabe's marketing advice. With See No Evil, the best thing we did, I'll say, is we. I spent a few days.
I know, I think.
Going through every resource I could find online to find emails of journalists, and ended up, getting in touch with like people from Rock Paper Shotgun and Kotaku and things like that, because you can find their emails online if you look hard enough. It just takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
So I spent tons of time, and then we actually this is okay. Here we go. Got it now. Here we go. Here's the thing. Find guys' emails, find people's emails, and email them, and then send them a build of your game with the first email. Don't wait for a response to send a build of the game, because if you send just an email and you're like, hey, I'm making a game, you should play it. Nice work, by the way.
Took me a little bit.
If you're just like, hey, I'm making a game, you should play it. People might be like, yeah, sure, or they might just not. But if you have the game there, then they have the temptation of like, maybe I'll just click it, maybe I'll just check it out, right?
Yeah.
So I send an email with screenshots in the email so that they can see that this is a real thing and that it looks cool, a link to the trailer, and a link to download the game just straight up, or a Steam key if you have it on Steam. And one of those like things, marketing resources I found online was like, make sure you have a really compelling email title, otherwise they're not going to read it. And so I like took that and I made really compelling email titles, and no one read them. But when I started just saying See No Evil review copy releasing whenever, I started getting way more responses. So just like really clear, concise text or subject for your email, include screenshots, include trailer, include demo. Yeah, that is the official answer to the question.
I will say as well, too, like, I know we get usually about 20 to 40 emails a day about people that are trying to get exposure for their games. So the email itself is such an important step, and I think a lot of people don't realize how important, because we get so many where it's like, yeah, I've got a game, this is what it's about, and that's all we'll get in the email, to the point that like I couldn't cover it if I wanted to.
What he's saying right now is another important thing. Make sure that you're not sending your PC game to a mobile game site, because that just makes you look bad. But another thing is following up and just like being thankful for that, like making sure you thank people after they write a review, because it actually matters. Like, it's really cool when someone writes a review and you're like, hey, I saw your review, it's great, thank you. And they're like, wow, thank you for thanking me. Like, no one does that. And they're like way more willing to like, do more stuff. So just keeping good contact with us is another important thing. Respecting your journalists, because they are your money.
That being said, we're already a few minutes over. So I'm going to have to cut this one short. We finished a ridiculously hard puzzle.
Yep.
If you guys want to beat the game or see if you can beat his time, which I dare you. I do. I dare you. On
With
the
no
first try.
walkthroughs.
Yeah, first try. You can pick it up on Steam right now for $6.99. That's American, right?
Yep, that's American.
Yep.
Yeah, that's American.
I believe tomorrow it'll be on sale for like $5 something.
Which is cool.
Nice.
Which is neat. So yeah, make sure to check it out tomorrow. I'll be sending out tweets, and we'll be putting up the YouTubes. If you're watching this on YouTube, then what the hell? Like, go check it out on Steam right now. The link is right there. So, but I want to say thank you so much, Gabriel, for being on the show again. I cannot wait to see what you guys have in the future, because I know a little bit of it.
I can't wait, just seeing what you guys have done with this. I can't wait to see what the next game is.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you so much, guys.
No,
that means a lot. Yeah, thank you for having me on. It was fun to see it play, and it was fun to talk.
Yeah, always good to catch up. So, until next time, I guess, much love, everybody, from everybody here at IGM and our Avid Giants. Hi, Mighty Giant. Enjoy that goddamn pina colada. It's like minus 15 over here, you jerk.
Probably cooler than that.
But
Much
until
love
then,
from
guys.
Noetic. Follow us on Twitter.
Yes, yeah, and that's also linked below. So
Oh, cool.
Anyway,
Click all the links.
yeah, much love, guys, and we'll see y'all next time.
Bye bye.